Hey everyone, Joe, and today I am with Justin Wood, and we were just talking before camera, and it's the gambit of screenplay to novels to podcast and everything in between. So, Justin, pleased to have you, man.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, we were having some good conversation. We're like, let's save some of that. That's good talk that we're already going through. So yeah, I do a little bit of everything. I can't say I do it well, but I try.
Well, I think from what we were talking about, I think you do it well enough, and you're being way modest, I know, but I want to walk us through. You started as a writer first, or podcaster, or screenplay person first?
A little bit of everything originally. I'll go even back further. I got into horror,
Mhm.
folklore, ghost stories. I mean, probably when I was a kid, but later on in college, I took a folklore class as an elective. Yeah, and being I'm in Alabama, so there's a lot of Southern Gothic folklore down
Oh,
here. Yeah, it was really fun. And one of the challenges was to write something from where you're from,
yeah.
and there's ghost stories everywhere down here. There's, Alabama's an old state, it's the old Southern style. So, I remember getting into those class assignments writing, and I saved a lot of those stories. And I was like, man, some of these are really fun to write, and some of them seemed okay. So I started putting them together, saving them over the years. And then I wrote my first book, which I just dropped the third edition, Needless Nightmares. And it's a collection of small short stories, but that really sparked my love of writing for anything horror related, ghost stories, even a couple of poems there. And again, the poetry element was a little different with horror, but it's
Right.
fun though. I have a lot of fun with it. Um,
Yeah, it sounds like you're expanding out. So you went from short story and put a collection, which is Needless Nightmares, of course. And you said it's the third edition. When you first started writing these for the course, how much did you touch up the stories?
I think the first stories when I wrote them for my folklore class, I really was trying to hit how many pages they wanted. 5 pages, 10 pages,
Yeah.
and a lot of my language was really flowery. We spoke about that briefly when we were talking about the screenplay writing, but one of the best things I did for myself was have someone actually edit them.
Yeah.
So when I wrote the first copy, I didn't do that. And I think it was okay. I mean, it wasn't a bad self published book. It's one of those things I prove to myself I did it. But at the same time, if I go back and look at that first copy and I'm like, oh man, that needed to be refined, because if you can say something impactful in 2 or 3 sentences rather than trying to draw it out over 2 or 3 pages,
Right.
people get what you're saying. You don't need to make it more than it is. So I've learned to be a little more concise with my writing, and hopefully it's done better. So, um,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I call it the Stephen King effect. I love Stephen King. I've got all of his books somewhere. Have I read them all? Yes. From cover to cover? No. Because I'm like, okay, 12 pages later, he's describing a pen for 12 pages. What the hell, man? It's like, oh, the
right.
pen is very spooky. I get it. It's a spooky pen. I get it. So we pick up from our people we read. So who were you reading as a kid or when you're younger?
There's a wonderful author from Alabama, Catherine Tucker Wyndham. She wrote 13 Alabama Ghosts and Jeffrey. Jeffrey was the ghost that apparently lived in her house, and she has a old 1960s photo, black and white, of one of her friends, and then this weird shadow creature in the corner. And as a kid, I loved the book. It scared the hell out of me. I think I picked it up in second grade at the library in school. I have it over on my desk. She wrote Mississippi Ghost, Georgia Ghost, Florida, Tennessee. So I would go to the library, constantly pick her books up. She wrote a lot of other folklore too, and I actually got to meet her. I think it was 2008 at the Telltale Festival in Selma, Alabama. Yeah, the Telltale Festival. She was probably 90 at the time. She's obviously since passed, but really cool to meet her. So she was one of my first ghost story horror writers that I absolutely loved. As I got older, man, Stephen King, obviously, Nightmares and Dreamscape, still one of my favorite books. But you're absolutely right. He writes everything. Another author that I think like that, Cormac McCarthy, No Country for Old
Yeah.
Men.
Child of
Love him.
God.
I thought Blood Meridian was a great book, but it's the same, how he describes the desert scenes. And I mean, how many times can you describe the desert? I'm not saying it's bad. He has done much better than I'll ever do. But I think we're living in a different generation with us. People want, they don't want to read through all the fluff and the filler. We're a lot more visual in how we see the world. We have our phones in front of us. You don't have to describe everything as much as I think they used to have to.
I think you hit the point. Back in the day when we didn't get out, if you didn't have a plane or a boat, like you weren't rich, you didn't leave your town. Like you maybe have a TV set that had a channel.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think the imagery was a lot more important when they were writing, and when he's describing desert scenes to someone who's never seen the desert. And I think about that a lot. If you're talking to someone who's reading a book back in 1800s or early 1900s, their references are going to be pretty minimal. There's hardly any photos. There's hardly any. There's not much magazines you can reference what a desert looks like. So, I started borrowing from those styles originally myself, and then when I looked at them, I'm like, oh man, what am I trying to prove here? Just write the damn ghost story.
Well, right. At the same time, I remember Carver, the father of minimalists. He actually wrote long, and then his editor, Lish, would cut it up to parts where he was just getting insane. It's like, oh my god, what do you do my work? What am I do with my work? But he became popular for minimalism because of his editor. And he couldn't ever escape that. So yeah, it kind of goes both ways. You don't want to go too far. You're trying to hit the happy middle, right?
Yeah, and I think that's also important to say. It's important to be true to yourself, but getting a second opinion is really important, because I could see, the editor that I had really did a good job at cutting a lot of the fluff. I mean, again, why say something in 2 or 3 paragraphs that you can say in 3 sentences? Then you could add more to your story, as opposed to describing one scene. Add something more impactful or include more stories in your book.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same when I'm smiling. Like, it takes me about 5 pages to get to the car. It's like, oh, now he's at the car. How many more pages? I got like 2 more pages for the assignment. I just got to a car. What the hell am I doing?
Yeah, It's a good question to ask. Is it adding anything to the scene? Okay, then what is it adding? Is it adding imagery for them to read? Is it adding a clue for later? Is it adding, some type of suspense? If it's not really bringing any of those into your scene, it's just filler. And if for college folklore classes where you have to hit 10 pages, fill away.
Yeah.
But yeah, for writing, it's something I've learned and I've worked on. And I think it's getting better. It's one of my hobbies I still love. Just if something comes to me, I like to write down and see where you can go with a random character you come up with, a random scene you've seen.
Right. It pops in your head, and then you're talking as it per scene, and I do see any type of writing almost as a screenplay writing. Did that help your screenplay writing? Does know the scenes have to have an emotional charge, plus or minus? There has to be a takeaway here. Otherwise, what's the point of the scene, right?
I think that's a really good point. One of the challenges, as we talked into writing for folklore and stories, and going into writing, a first screenplay, that was a project I put away. I started that right after I wrote the first copy of my book. Really? And it was overwhelming at first, writing a full screenplay or trying to write a feature, because a lot of it, if you've I'm not a great actor, but if you've acted before, you're taking that one character and you're looking at that perspective and you're trying to find out why they do something or who they are. But then when you're writing it, you're writing for several characters. And then it's almost overwhelming to think, to go from, okay, this is my main character here. We have an antagonist over here.
Right.
So, you're shifting perspective, you're shifting dialogue, how they speak, how they respond. So, I had started that project back in 2016 or 17, which it actually started as a folklore, I don't want to say assignment, but it started as a short story. And I really loved the characters. Yeah, it's called Granny Willow. It really was it was something I was proud of, because I really went to depth with that. And I was like, well, maybe this would make a good book. But then I had such good visuals that I felt were pretty good. And I was like, you know what? I'll try to write a screenplay. And so I finished it this past I believe in January of this past year. Have made some submissions, so far promising. We can say that.
Fingers crossed on that one. And that's sometimes it's the format, right? You have the idea for the story, but you don't know what format it is. So you try you try the short story. Like, well, I think this actually would be a pretty good screenplay. Like, why not try this out now? And when you're writing the screenplays, do you use, there it is. That's what I was looking for. Do you use cards? I'm getting my screenplay out. Do you use index cards?
I did, man. That's a great start. I have a whole row of them in my desk back here in my drawers. I did do that because I didn't want to go back and make an incorrect reference, where they were born or who the parents are or miss any links. So, I gave all my characters a little biography card.
Right.
Okay. And I think that's a huge help. But then again, it gets back into that overwhelming. You're laying it out. And mine has a bit of a shifting timeline from, the protagonist looking back from the modern day and reflecting on, his grandmother, who is the Granny Willow, and talking about her stories. But then you're looking also at, okay, in this time, in this place, would this be historically accurate, or how was the weather back then? I'm talking July. Why is he adjusting his coat?
Yes.
So that part really was daunting. I mean, it overwhelmed me for a few years. I would go back, revisit, make some changes, and then I just got lost in the meat of it. I was like, man, I'm at the middle, so put it back for a couple of years, and then this past last year, 2024, got back into writing it and felt good about where I was at. I got my notes back out, revisited the old index cards, dusted them off. And I rolled with it. I just started going and see what came out. And so far, I think it was okay. It was okay.
Well, that's the thing. It's reps. It all, like Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, it all comes down to reps. It's either the gym or writing. You have to get repetitions in. And the more you get in, like, oh, now I'm strong enough to do the screenplay. Before you're getting lost in it, then you did your reps with your writing, and now you can.
That's a really good way to put it. I thought about that prior to the podcast because I know you, and thinking about doing the podcast because I've done a couple myself. It's more seasonal, but I went back and listened to a first or second episode that I did, and
You're brave. I would never listen to my old ones. Never.
I don't like listening to my current ones, but I was like, oh my God, you can hear the tension in the voice, the shifts, the bad edits, the pops. But like you said, it's reps. The more you get comfortable being yourself, hearing your voice, and just getting out there and putting yourself out there, it makes it a lot more comfortable. So
yeah, the business part of it especially. And for your podcast, we talked a little bit about this. For those of you that don't know, it's weird when you have a podcast because it might not hit at first. And then a year or two later, you look at your first episodes and all of a sudden they have like thousands of listens out of nowhere. I'm like, where were you like 2 years ago? Like, what the hell?
I wonder how that algorithm works and what people are searching, but it is strange like that. When you go back and you look at your stats, you're like, people are listening to that now?
Like, still, yeah, which is great. Now, I can tell you what, mine. I did a children's podcast once. No swearing. Hey, everyone. That was a voice. And we did for the summertime, people wrote in. So we read their stories on air and stuff like that. It got 0. I mean, it was 0.0. No listeners whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, 1 season done. That's okay. No problem. I looked at the stats last year. I'm like, how do we get a couple thousand now? Like, no one listened for a year solid. And all of a sudden, ding, 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 ding. Were you that granular with your podcast, which, Midnight Dreary, right? Were you looking at stats every day and going, do I keep going?
I think I was a lot more honest with myself with podcasting, and it's probably indirectly related to people I know. I know so many people that are really into podcasting and love listening to podcasts, and then I know so many people that just are still turned off by it. That I don't do that at all. So, and especially doing a horror related podcast, it tends to be more seasonal. And I wanted to set a realistic expectation. I'm not trying to make it a full time job for me with everything that I have going on. I don't want to spread myself too thin. I really want to have fun with it. I want to put some stories out there. I want to try it, see how it goes. And if the door opens and it gets bigger and better, maybe, but realistically, I knew it would be a fun seasonal project to have. But I noticed the exact same thing, that the first couple of episodes, one, were just really poorly done, but you have to do those, man.
You have to get them out of the way.
Yeah, you have to get comfortable just putting them out there. And I was too hard of a critic on myself. I was like, oh, I've got to have the best mic. I've got to have the best editing. But really the content was garbage because it's not the equipment that makes it. It's you, the host.
Yep.
And so I didn't have any real high expectations for those. But as I got into it, and mostly I change it up. I'll do sometimes a fictional story that I've written, a ghost story, something like that. And I'll do a lot of realistic accounts. One of the ones that's done pretty well is the Pascagoula alien abduction. It's a alien abduction that apparently happened in Pascagoula, Mississippi. And there's a great unsolved mysteries on it a long time ago. So
that sounds familiar. Was it the whole Robert Stack one?
Yeah, and it was two guys fishing in Pascagoula, Mississippi, and they claimed to have gotten abducted by an alien craft. But the weirdest thing about it was, there was reportings down the coast, of a light in the night sky that night, completely unrelated. So there's a lot of strange clues corroborate. It's something weird. It didn't add up. So it's fun to talk about all the clues. And I actually, emailed one of the ladies in Pascagoula. I think she was, worked for the county. She came up as a contact for one of the festivals they put on. I think that celebrates it. And it's funny because, I go with hardly anybody listening to my podcast and, send her an email. I'm like, hey, I host this podcast. Would you talk? Send me some great info about it. And it's fun that, people open up when they want to share their story, even if, you think your podcast, oh man, I'm not doing really that great, but people want to share their stories. And if you can take those stories and share them, I guarantee there's other people that want to hear it. So, that was a fun one. And you talked about doing a kid one. I did one with my daughter, and it was probably the only kid-friendly one that I did. And it was over 10,000 downloads that month. I'm like, really? Yeah, for a kid-friendly podcast. It's labeled kid-friendly Halloween podcast. It was just her and I talking about Halloween trends, what's going on in her middle school at the time, what costumes they're wearing, what candy is popular.
That's great.
And, I have a buddy that also hosts, and he's like, did you see what your numbers are on that? I'm like, I haven't even looked at, 100, if that? Yeah. And he's like at 8,000 at the time. I'm like, what, really? So you never know what's going to hit. So I think that's important about not just putting quality work out there, but just put it out there. Even if you second guess yourself, sometimes the ones you don't think are going to hit really do. And then the ones you think are going to be a home run, you're like goose egging.
Well, that's it. It's like William Shatner doing Star Trek because it's just an acting job, not realizing it's an entire, future franchise that will support like generations of everything. Or you never know. You never know. I know the guy who turned down Gandalf.
Oh my gosh, really?
Because you never. He's like, I don't want to be away from my family for that long in New Zealand. Okay. In hindsight, yeah, you just never know both ways. You never know.
Sometimes you just got to take those chances and see what works. And that's, I've gotten to that point. We mentioned that briefly too. I think as I've gotten older, I've come to terms with, I'm just always going to be a jack of all trades, maybe a master of none, but I enjoy doing it. I want to put out what I enjoy to do, and I want to have fun with it. I don't want to fool myself into think it's going to bring me any untold riches, because the probability isn't really likely that it's going to, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking into, I love talking Halloween. I love talking ghost stories. I love recording and talking, fiction or writing and seeing if it's possible. And if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. But I had a great time doing it.
And that's the point. Is like, you can do it as a business, and a lot of people do. I mean, that's great. There's always a business aspect of it. But if you're not liking it, why you're doing it?
And that's what I always come back to. I mean, it's I still have a day job, and I enjoy doing that. And I promise you, it is entirely different than writing any type of ghost stories. Trying to write a screenplay or doing a podcast, but it pays the bills, and I'm glad I have that. But coming to especially as spooky season, as I always say, late September, towards really December, and beyond, the winter months, the cooler months, as the spooky season, sets upon us, there's nothing better to me than listening to a scary podcast. I'll go and find somebody that's launching something, or somebody that's been there, and really tune into it. So if somebody can get that feeling from one of my podcasts, man, that makes me happier than anything.
Well, yeah, it's the ghost over the campfire still,
Yeah.
right? That's the autumn, the winter time. That's what they're for. We
Yeah.
tell ourselves those stories. Now, when you did needless things, needless things. I just said it wrong. Needless nightmares. Although, if you want to, claim needless things, go
I
for
love
it.
it. Could be a part
Needless,
two.
yeah, needless nightmares. You said you got a editor to do the, really hit it home. What made you decide? Okay, I want to come back to this and get this edited like properly. Boom.
I looked at the first Amazon listing I had, and I did it very. I don't like the word cheap, but I did it efficient for me at the time. I knew if I was going to put it out there that I was going to have to pay somebody to do a cover. Didn't really have much money to invest at the time, and this was about 10 years ago. And then I went back and looked at the listing, and had some okay reviews on there, but just the cover didn't look. It looked drab. I went back to the stories and I read them, and there was a couple of typographical errors. Let's just call it, writer's block at the time, or And so I was like, a second pair of eyes on this would probably benefit this if I really wanted to leave it on Amazon where the world can try to search my book and find it.
Right.
That's what got me into it. So the second time I did it, when I had it edited, I didn't have as many stories in there, but they really gave me some good advice on it, where to go. And like I said, how to bring the stories down. And it did bring the page count down a little bit. So I finally did a third edition this past year, and really invested a little more into the right type of editing. Not to say that the second time wasn't the right type. It was just more budget friendly.
Right.
And really paid somebody to illustrate. So I threw some illustrations for each story in there, which is
cool.
Yeah, it adds a little bit of the scary stories to tell in the dark vibe. So I like that. And yeah, I think sometimes, take some of the work off my own plate. Now I'm lucky, I can afford reasonably to pay somebody else to take some of the work that I'm not either great at or I don't want to do. But it also helps me get over that milestone. I want to get this book out, but it needs to be edited. Do I want to sit here and judge myself and try to make these clips and see how it works, or just put it in somebody else's hand, give them a little money, and it's done?
That's it. I think that's a two-thing parter. One, it takes it off your plate so you can do other things with your time. You can create more. You can make more for your job, whatever it's going to be. And
Right.
two, there's things that you won't hit because it's your book. Your brain will fill in the gaps. The gaps are there, but your brain's like, nope, no gap.
Yeah.
Okay, sure,
That's
yeah.
It's important to be. It's important to get to that step, and that's maturity, man. I mean, I've learned that as I've gotten older. Like I said, I'll be 42 in October, and trying to write at 30 with even younger kids at the time. I have two, but when they're babies, and you're trying to write and come up with something, and you're trying to do it all yourself. I respect the grind, and I'm glad that I started putting it out there. But when you can really be honest and truthful with yourself, if you're not the best at something, but somebody else is, and you can put that in their hands and take it off your plate and then get it back a cleaner version, man, do that. Make life a little easier for yourself.
Well, absolutely. And it all goes back into everything. Now, this will kind of come up to my next question. I ask this of all my guests. What piece of advice would you give? When I say younger, I mean like teens to little kid you. What advice would you give then?
I have so many because I give my oldest daughter's 12, going on 13. One, two-part answer. The first one is put the phone down this day and age. Experience the world as it is. I tell them, I saw this the other day, and it breaks my heart to a degree. A family walking into the store when I'm in there, and all the kids are behind the mom, three children, all walking behind her, looking at the phone, and they're missing out on so much. It's a store, but man, you don't know where inspiration lies. You don't know if there's a book you're going to pass because you're too emblazed in the content, which it sounds almost, self I don't know how to say it, but because I want to put out content and I want people to enjoy it, but I want them to be enjoying it at the right time. Don't miss out on those moments with your family. Don't miss out on the world passing you by. If you're sitting in the car, driving with your parents or riding with your parents, take in what's outside, take in the scenes. Don't get lost in technology, man. So that would be the first thing. I love it. I appreciate it. I'm guilty of it myself, but the way that they are so entrenched in the phone and the technology these days, I feel like they're missing out on reality, and they're looking at something it's not real.
No,
So
you hit it on the head. I forgot because the phones, we didn't grow up with phones. It's kind of a modern thing for both of us. Like you used to look out the window while you were driving, or your parents were driving in the front and you guys were like looking out the window. Now they'll never see what's going by because they got their phones in their hands or the tablet or the movie screen.
yeah, I try to get her into she needed one for after school for bus pickup and there was no problem with that. So, but then they migrate into the social media and then to the YouTube. And again, I like it, the content, just like you do. We want to put that out there for people to read and to listen to, but you don't want anybody walking by in this world and missing out. It's the little things that, the nostalgia of going to the library, having my parents drop me off, going through the old bookshelves and the Dewey Decimal System, the old card catalog.
Yeah,
and
I love those.
It brings back a time that, before technology just consumed us, but it was on the brink. I think that was a perfect balance. You could use technology for what you needed and to help you out in the world. But it didn't consume you like it does nowadays. But that's my first piece of advice. I mean, the inspiration's out there. Right. Don't look at other people's work, and that's what you're taking in when you're looking at your phone all day or YouTube. It's great for inspiration, but man, the inspiration's really out in the world. Travel, go try something new.
You can't write about something you haven't done.
Yeah.
There's
absolutely.
No inspiration if you just sit at home looking at YouTube or doom scroll. There's no inspiration there unless that's your one-off, Write a book about doom scrolling. Sure.
That's a horror book on its own. I doom scrolled for 2 days and I have to show up to work on Monday now. You missed the whole weekend. But it's a good segue into it because you need to experience the world as it is. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable, going out there and putting yourself in, hike, go out and see places you've never been. So for younger generations, obviously I don't want to tell them to go out and put themselves in too uncomfortable situations, but
get in the van. He's got candy for you. Go.
That was all the 80s rage, all these vans full of candy pulling up.
I never got one. I'm so disappointed.
I never saw them out there. Yeah. Be safe, man. But, they need to put their work out there. I think that's another thing too, put your art out there and see where it takes you and take good constructive criticism. If you write a story, have somebody read it. If you draw a picture, have somebody judge it, enter it into a contest. There are so many contests online nowadays you can get into for your writing, for your art, for your screenplays. At any age you can always write, you can always draw, you can put it out there. And like you said, I think it kind of takes us full circle, but go back to the reps. The more you do this stuff, the better you're going to get. And I'm still learning that at my age. If you start much earlier and put your content out there, put your creative ideas out there, your drawings, your whatever it may be, you're going to get the feedback and you're going to get better at it if you keep at it.
Absolutely. That's great advice. So, wow, we talked about everything from your book, Needless Nightmares, not Needless Things. Either way, good books, both of them. And, coming up with your podcast, Midnight Jury, and your screenplay that's coming, we'll say, on my own mic.
Fingers crossed. Fingers
crossed on that one and everything in between, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been a
No,
pleasure.
it's been a great time. If anything exciting comes up this year, I'll let you know. Fingers crossed on the
Yeah,
screenplay. But it's been great. I appreciate you having me. And
we'll have you back, especially for that.
yeah, and I'll reach out to you and fire up the Midnight Dreary for the fall spooky season. We can do maybe a crossover and have some fun
Oh,
with
I
it.
love a crossover like Scooby Doo and Flintstones. I dig it, man. I think those are
Yes,
crossovers for though.
I
Maybe.
love the old Hanna Barbera
Yeah.
references, man. We're showing our age here.
Drop it in. Where can we find you on socials?
Socials right now, I do YouTube is the Midnight Dreary one. You'll see a lot of my Midnight Dreary videos on there. Any podcasting platform, the Midnight Dreary, you can find that. Needless Nightmares, you can find on Amazon, and any bookstore should have the third edition just released of Needless Nightmares. I do have a TikTok for the Midnight Dreary. I think it's also the Midnight Dreary #1. I try not to do too much social because I get bad at not updating enough. Uh, it's
Guilty.
it's I know it's a blessing and a curse to have that, but it's one of those things I say I don't want to do something if I can't commit fully to it. But the YouTube is up there for Midnight Dreary. Midnight Dreary 1 got a lot of videos on the podcast. Otherwise, Midnight Dreary on any podcast platform.
Amazing. Check it out. And I'll say this again. Thanks for coming on. It's always great to talk to someone who's multifaceted because I'm like, oh yeah, we can talk about the same stuff and I can understand and we mix and match. I love it, man. So thanks again for coming.
Appreciate you.
All right. From behalf of myself, Joe, and Justin Wood, we bid you good day. That's Paul Harvey. All right. Bye, everyone.
Peace.